Today is the 15th of May, according to the lunar calendar, the full moon day. In the Vinaya, we call it the white moon of the 15th. So when we talk about white moon, there must be a black moon. Where is the black moon? The black moon is the first of the day, and they call it black. They couldn't see it. It's just maybe a little bit you can see it, but that's what we call the black moon. But anyway, without further ado on superfluous thinking, let's attempt to answer the first question. There are other days for meditation? The question is, are there any other days for meditation? Because I would like to come more often. That means the person who asked the question thinks that 1/2 day is not enough. Well, you can do it at home in meditation. When you learn the basic techniques, you can do it at home. So meditation is not just sitting, Meditation is just not sitting down, I'm meditating. Not like that. Meditation involves sitting meditation, of course. Also involves walking meditation. Sleeping meditation, reclining meditation. Actually, you can meditate wherever you are. Meditation is, at the preliminary stage, be mindful. At an advanced stage, also be mindful. So meditation is, first of all, you have to be mindful of yourself. So not just sitting down. So if you think that just sitting down is meditation, that's not correct. So other days you can meditate at home. But I think first of all we have to learn the meaning of meditation, the significance of meditation, the techniques of meditation. Once you grasp that, wherever you go, walking, sitting, reclining, sleeping, anywhere, you are in meditation, you are in peace, you are in peacefulness, you're living in peace. So meditation is not just for sitting. So I think this is a question that I would like also to somehow answer in English too. There's a question asking me, in Buddhism there are two sections, two main branches of Buddhism. The Mahayana approach and the Hanayana approach. And the question asked is, should we follow the Hanayana approach? Do you advocate the Hanayana approach to Buddhism? My answer is, not only advocating Hanayana, we have to study Hanayana. You cannot tread the path of the sages of Mahayana without going through Hanayana. How can you know Buddhism without understanding the Noble Eightfold Path? The Four Noble Truths: suffering, causes of suffering, cessation of suffering, and methods to stop suffering. If you don't study that, how can you ever be thinking about enlightenment? That's the basic. Hinayana is the basic, it's a must, it's a necessity. So if you don't know the four contemplations, how can you even meditate? What are the four contemplations? Contemplation of the body as impure, contemplation as the perception, the feelings as suffering, contemplation of conceptualization as impermanent, and contemplation of the consciousness and Dharma as selfness, without essence. Now, all these four contemplations, if you don't learn these four contemplations, you haven't approached Buddhism at all. And some people, when they study Buddhism, they only just look at the meaning. What's the meaning of impurity? What's the meaning of karma? What's the meaning of rupa, arupa? If you're asking questions like the meaning, why don't you take a look at the website in the dictionary? You can get it from a dictionary. You don't have to ask me. Don't involve yourself in just the meaning of the words. What is contemplation of impurity? What's the definition of impurity? Well, if you're always talking in terms of just the language, you're missing the point. We're not finding the meaning of the words. The words has not very many significance. It's just like when we go to Victoria, we got to get onto the ship, and you're asking, what's the time schedule of the ship? What's the ship make up of? Who's the captain? Is there a cafeteria on the ship? How much do they charge? Is it made of metal, made of wood? Is it carpeted? Is it comfortable? You're asking everything about a ship. You never set your foot on board. You're never in the sail. You're just asking for definitions. You're just asking for meaning of the words. You're missing the whole point. Why just ask definitions? Why do you want to just involve with words? Get onto the board, sail through it, through the ocean of mental afflictions, go through it and get to shore of enlightenment. You have to sail. Set sail for it. Not just looking at the sunset. Some people just look at the sunset without going ashore. You set sail and get to the sun. Get to view the sun. Get to go to Victoria by yourself. Step on shore. Not just interested in the ship. Not just interested in the definitions and what is Buddhism, what is the Eight Noble Path, the Four Noble Truths, what is impurity, what is karma, what is causality, what is impermanence. And the eighth realization, the first realization is the world is impermanent. How do you define impermanent? I mean, those, why don't you take a look at the website? Save time. All right? So, that's the second question. Third question is about 2 weeks to go. This is very good handwriting. I don't know who, there's no name on it, but I think this is good handwriting. About 2 weeks ago, you mentioned something called conceptualization and how it relates to how our mind works. Could you please talk a little more about it, or perhaps suggest a book or website where I can read more about it? It sounds like a very interesting topic and could spark many psychology and Buddhism research. Conceptualization. Yes, I was involved in conversation in Hong Kong just about a month ago, and I have a group of people. I have 2 professors from that academy, and it's an academy of motivation. That academy is dealing with lectures and organizing courses in motivating people, in solving people's depression problems, understanding their problems. And many people enroll with that course, with a lot of courses in there. And somehow the 2 professors would like to talk to me in the luncheon. So I went to the luncheon, attended the luncheon, and they asked a lot of questions about conceptualization. And of course, when they ask questions about Buddhism concerns very much about the mind, about consciousness. So Buddhism is a very profound, if you want to define Buddhism as whether it is psychology or not, it's a very profound psychology. And so I said a lot of things about mentality, about the mind. And then one of the professors said, yes, the problems with the society, with individual, with problems in the family, with problems why people suffer from depression is they conceptualize too much. They form their own conceptualization since birth because of the background of the family, because of the background of education, because of the influences of society, because of family members. They form certain conceptualizations, and these conceptualizations were being imposed onto them partially by the environments, and of course they formed their own conceptualizations. So the professor said, so my main concern in my role, in my course, as a motivational lecturer, is to tell them deconceptualize yourself. That's what he says. Deconceptualize yourself. In other words, all your conceptions at birth, all your conceptions that you learn, you throw them away. You throw them away, and then you're okay. Well, I said, wow, yeah, I would like to make a reservation on that statement, because it's good to conceptualize, but then if you still have that ego, how can you deconceptualize? You use your ego to deconceptualize. So you have to, in other words, before you deconceptualize, you have to have a basis for this conceptualization. You can't just say that, I want to throw away all my values. They're no good. I want to deconceptualize. But you have to understand, first of all, you have to understand what these values are. You have to realize your conceptualization first. And that's exactly what Buddhism is talking about. Buddhism talks about the world. Buddhism talks about yourself. Buddhism talks about your body. What is my body? The five skandhas make up of. So Buddhism tells you a lot of the worldly conceptualization first. And then Buddhism says, is that conceptualization right? Or is that wrong? What's the problem with that conceptualization? Well, without understanding this conceptualization, how can you deconceptualize? You must be standing away from the conceptualization to deconceptualize it. So what do? You really have to stand away from the conceptualization. So in other words, in order to deconceptualize, first of all, you have to understand yourself. You have to understand yourself in relation to the world. You have to understand not just the conceptualization that you have, conceptualization surrounding you. You understand first. And then you start to think about what kind of conceptualization. You have to study, how do I throw away my ego first before you deconceptualize. And as a matter of fact, when you are egoize yourself, you are at the same time deconceptualizing yourself. So in other words, this conceptualization is actually the purity, the purification. So, how do you, in conceptualization, in Zen Buddhism, I'll give you an example. When we are meditating, one of the branches of Zen Buddhism, they have a method to deconceptualize. How do they deconceptualize? When they meditate on a koan, K-O-A-N, koan. In Zen Buddhism, one branch is to meditate on the koan, K-O-A-N. What is this koan? Koan is a query, a question. And that question sometimes is like this: who is meditating Amitabha? Who is meditating the Buddha's name? Who is doing that? 念佛是谁? Who is chanting that Buddha name? What does that mean? Who is deconceptualizing? Who is conceptualizing? Who is conceptualizing? And then you have that question. They meditate on that question. Who is conceptualizing? Or who is deconceptualizing? Even the person who deconceptualized, they ask him, who is conceptualizing? Who is deconceptualizing? The 念佛是谁? They meditate on the koan. Some people say, oh yeah, meditate on the question. So if you can find the answer, that means you become enlightened, right? You're asking yourself a question, who is conceptualizing, but then if you find the answer to it, then you become a Buddha, isn't it? That's not it. That's not it. You keep on raising that query in your mind, just that query, just that question, nothing else. And I give you an example on how it works. Your mentality is just like a balloon. In that balloon, That balloon is so elastic that it fills out the whole universe. It can be as small as a molecule, as big as the whole universe, because elasticity is unlimited. That balloon, because you're conceptualizing, there's a lot of thoughts in that balloon. All these ages, eons of lives, you form a lot of thoughts. What are these thoughts? Thoughts of greediness, jealousy, hatred, mental afflictions, hurdles you have to go through, depressions, fear, disappointment. All these things are in that balloon, the mind balloon that you have. All the conceptualization is there. And it's always working. And now you're using one sentence, who is conceptualizing? To replace that. You don't want to think about all those greediness anymore. No depression thinking, no greediness, no afflictions, nothing like that. You just have one thought, and that thought is 念佛是谁? That's the only thought that occupies that balloon. So that thought is the only thought, not trying to find an answer. It's just that thought. And then that thought will grow because you concentrate in that thought, no other thought. Then all the other thoughts of greediness, hatred, depression, fear, disappointment, they're not arising. Why? Because that 念佛是谁 who is conceptualizing is growing into in the balloon. And it's growing, just that one single thought, growing. No other thought, so that single thought replaces all other thought. There's only one thought. And it grow. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you name it. Until there's no other thought, just one single thought. But that one single thought, when the time comes, when the right opportune moment comes, because of many other reasons, all of a sudden, that balloon that is so big with that one thought, somehow a needle put through it, then it cracks. When it cracks, then you know everything. Why? Because you have that one thought. When it cracks, even that thought is gone. Now, how do I explain it? that thought is gone, then you see the whole universe. Because all these mental afflictions were replaced by that one thought, and at the end, even that thought is gone. When that thought is gone, what's the significance? There's enlightenment. Because there's no more afflictions in there. All of a sudden, you have all the supernatural power because it's all within you. The nature is within you. You see yourself. All of a sudden, this mirror that has been covered by dirt for millions of years, all this is eliminated. You see your real self. You see your real self. Now that's how the masters get enlightened. I don't know what happened when that balloon bursts because I haven't experienced it yet. I like to experience it, but I haven't gone up to that point. But I know, one day we'll be there. It's just like I get onto the boat in Victoria, I'm sailing. I'll be there one day. We don't know when. I'll be there one day. And there are people who don't even want to get onto the boat. They suffer on this shore. Life after life. Life after life. And they still think that this body is me. This is me. Well, I'm looking at my clock and I don't want to go on. I can carry on. But this conceptualization requires a lot of thinking. If you study Buddhism, you will find a lot in there, especially if you study Vijnanamatrata. Vijnanamatrata means the study of the consciousness. There's a special branch in Buddhism, Weishi, the psychology of Buddhism. Then you really have to go deep into it. When you go deep into it, you understand how conceptualization a lot more. You understand what Nietzsche or many other, or Kant, or other Western philosophers classified as subconsciousness or superconsciousness. All that actually was spoken by the Buddha 2,600 years ago. Many philosophers borrow the Buddhist teachings and gather in their framework of thinking. Well, next question. In the 8 realizations spoken by the Buddha, it states that the 5 aggregates are not the ego, but aren't they all ego-based? I don't understand. You mean the 5 aggregates are not the ego requires a lot of time to explain. Because I spent a lot of time explaining conceptualizations, I don't think I have time to explain this. The physical I and the spiritual I, they're always contradicting each other. The physical I always want to satisfy the senses. The physical I want to eat. The physical I want to be greedy, want to be disappointed, want to be jealous. The physical I always want to pull you into trouble. All the suffering is done by the physical I, physical me, the physical I. The physical always want to satisfy your senses, your eyes, your nose, looking for satisfaction, the physical I. The spiritual I always want to say, no, I want to practice. I want to get away from this senses satisfaction. I want to become the Buddha. I want to practice morality. I want to do a lot of enlightenment. But however, this physical I always want to be in control. No, you're a human, you have to get married, you have to make money, you have to have reputation, you have to have fame, you have to satisfy your sexual desire, you have to satisfy your greediness, and sometimes you're depressed, sometimes you're jealous, sometimes you have resentment, and all this physical I is in control. Most of the people only have the physical I in control. The spiritual I is just kicked apart, not in it. As long as you get more spiritual and enlightened, your physical I would notice it. Look, wait, this physical I is not right. He's doing the wrong thing. He's going through all the karmic forces of reincarnation. I got to reflect on it. I got to stop it. I got to do something about it. When you think about that, your spiritual I slowly takes over. Slowly reflect on it. Slowly want to be in control. However, they're always fighting. And the physical I is always in control. Because why? If your physical I has not been in control, you wouldn't be reincarnated into this world. You wouldn't be suffering. It's always your physical I in control. Your spiritual I, very, very weak. But if you grow spiritually, if you try to stay away from the self-centered life to a divinity-centered life, your spiritual I is in control. And finally, when it's all in control, you are enlightened. You become the Arahat. You get away from life and death. No more suffering. Which do you want? Right now, your physical I is in control. Pity is pitiful. Everybody, every one of us, our physical I is always in control. And let's work towards it. It's life after life. Work towards it. That's what the Buddha said.